This is a S13 240SX, and this is a Mustang GT. I decided to put a Mustang GT engine into the 240SX, and man oh man, has it been a journey already. By far one of the most challenging things I've ever done. I said to myself, was this all a waste of time? Well, I was finally able to figure out a lot in this episode, but then I ran into some other challenges when it came to, well, everything, including cutting out way too much material. So in this video, I will walk you through all my worst mistakes on this project, and you will see why. Okay, back to bad financial decisions. Moving forward with the Coyote Coupe, there was a lot of challenges ahead. Just when you thought things were getting easier, they were actually getting harder. In this video, we tackled how we solve the exhaust, cutting the trans tunnel, which certainly had its issues later, and I'll get into that, and also the first start.
Real loud.
You might remember Alan from previous videos, who was my biggest help on this project and definitely the most passionate about the car.
And I'm responsible for all of David's horrible financial decisions.
Well, he left this shop seeking other careers in life. But in the span of only about 1 year, Alan went from, wait for it, working for Federico's Formula Drift team, while also working very briefly for GMG Automotive. I'm sure you've heard that story from T-Pain. He didn't stay long, as you can imagine. Then he went to another shop called Zen Motors, where he hung out a little bit. But after working for 3 different places in the span of almost 1 year, he finally said to himself, you know what, I'll start my own shop. That's called Excel Motor Works. And this is a very important detail for later in this story. But first I had to get the car in at least a somewhat drivable condition to get it to the body shop later for a fresh paint job. But in the meantime, if you were wondering where Alan was, he was on an epic self-learning journey that led him to being his own boss. Okay, back to what we were talking about. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Coyote Swap S13 Coupe. Of course, things are actually pretty hard on this thing. But the good news is we've actually done some measurements. Actually, I was out of town. All the guys here did all the measurements, so big credit to them. And they pretty much said only a few things have to be changed to make it fit. We actually have a good amount of space between the Coyote and the firewall, which means we won't have to do a rear mount radiator, which is great news. First things first, I'm gonna unbox the headers in front of you guys, and we're gonna see what they look like. Oh no, oh no. These are BBK Shorty headers for basically a 2011 to 14 Mustang, but we're gonna make it fit on the 17 Coyote. A Shorty header normally is kind of one of those things where I'm like, might as well go long tubes. But this is perfect for what we're doing, because we're just trying to make it fit. These are much smaller than the manifold that actually came with the Coyote motor that's used to like fit things, everything. The stock header is actually very big. So this will definitely help us as a reference on how to fit the Coyote. So once we put this on the Coyote, if we have to use just the flange, we can use that as a guidance system and then make our own headers if we actually have to go around everything else. We'll just have to fab it. This way. No, this way. Oh, I think I have the wrong side.
Oh, David, you're stupid. Can't do anything.
Okay, let's try these. Okay, so I just have to this one right over here. It just doesn't go all the way down. Oops, that's way too far. I look like I'm all lonely. Okay, but other than that, making some progress, nothing actually in the car yet. Another thing too, you remember those BBK Shorty headers I was gonna try and use? So we were gonna try to modify those, and they're still just too much. So instead, we did some research and realized that the F-150's header is also the same header that they use on a lot of the hot rod swaps with Coyotes. So if you were to put this in a really old car, like a 30s hot rod, rat rod, something like that, or even in some other swap, you can use these. These are cast iron headers for the Coyote. I highly doubt we'll lose a lot of power because of them, but this is as tight as we're gonna get using a factory header. So if these don't fit, we're in trouble. We still have to change the location of the steering shaft, but with this will make our life a lot easier. So we're gonna see what we gotta do. Today, as you see, the Coyote is actually sitting in the engine bay. We've actually done a lot. In our previous episodes, we've done a trial and error period this entire series essentially. Due to there's really not a lot of information out there to do this swap, so we found out that you could bash in the trans tunnel, but it just wasn't really fitting that well. The motor went in, but the trans did not. So what are we gonna do? We're just gonna send it. So we're gonna send it by cutting out the transmission tunnel completely and make our own tunnel. So here we have the 9-inch Sicky. Wow, this is a tongue twister. I can't say it. So here we have the 9-inch Sicky shifter extension for the T56 Magnum. You can use these for LS 240s as well, stuff like that. But this is the longest one they have, and it's all CNC'd in-house in Baltimore, and it is made in USA. So if you want to support Sicky, they're the people to go to for stuff like this. They do amazing work. They also have a subframe and a diff that's a quick change diff and everything. That's really cool. So maybe we'll do that later. I don't know. We'll find out. And once we have the new tunnel in, we can experiment where to put it. Dan already took the seat out. That's a big step. But here is where the 1J used to plug into. Okay, so now carpet is out. Now we need to gauge how much we need to cut of the trans tunnel. Pretty much all of it is what I'm guessing. And we'll go from there. Also, as you can see, the motor is mounted for its very first time. And we also got the Boss 302 alternator kit. Now, if you do a Coyote swap in any chassis whatsoever, get this kit from Ford Performance. I'm telling you, it took us 8 minutes to put this thing on. It's all ready to go. The belt is very straightforward. If you need a belt diagram, here's kind of an image for you if you need it. You can look it up on Google and it'll tell you exactly how the routing is. It's very, very simple. If I can do it, you can do it. We also have a heartbreak story here where we had to notch the frame. We're gonna reseal it up with some nice shiny new metal to give it rigidity again. Along with a MagnaFlow universal Y pipe that we're gonna use to turn the exhaust from a dual exhaust to a single exhaust out the back, just like every other 240. Yes, a dual exhaust would look really cool, but I think it also would look kind of weird. So we're gonna go single exhaust out the back once we go from the headers to that, take the Y pipe and split into one. So as you can tell, our steering rack was completely shot and brand new steering rack. So we have a brand new steering rack, rid of the old one, and these are actually extremely hard to find, but I found mine on rockauto.com because they're magical people. All right, we just mocked up the shifter extender, and now we're gonna see where it needs to sit if we need to cut more tunnel. It's dead center at the shifter hole right now.
You guys gotta go back.
In this chaotic area, we cut this out to make room for this, and then we're gonna probably have to cut this out as well for this to have some free air to move around. It's just a trial and error thing, going in and out. And just when you thought we were making progress, you see the interior and it like hurts your soul. But there's nothing left in here. We cut all that trans tunnel out. We got our shifter extender, which actually ended up being a little too long, unfortunately. But the hardest part of this entire swap is the T56 to the bell housing adapter. The bell housing adapter pretty much ruins all hopes and dreams. What I didn't know at this moment is that we actually cut too much of the trans tunnel, almost jeopardizing the entire build and the entire chassis entirely. Later down the road, I would be told that the car was almost unsavable. One thing you'll notice about swapping the Coyote into an S chassis, the factory intake manifold will not work. And the reason being is because it actually aims the throttle body upwards. And this was a conundrum I couldn't really figure out for a while until I looked at my 2013 Mustang GT for inspiration. And I actually at the time had a Pro Charger on the car which had a Boss 302 intake manifold on it, which coincidentally aimed the throttle body downward. So that was a huge morale boost and solved our intake issue. But then life got in the way of this car once again, and fast forward all the way to 2019.
Bro, that's crazy.
What do you think, Calvin?
Okay, well first off, The clearances are insane. I mean, I don't know if you guys can even picture this, but you can't even fit a credit card in there. Is it solid mounted?
Yes.
Okay.
It has to be.
Brother, this is
actually
wild.
not bolted in right now. This is just as a
okay.
mock-up to see if it would fit.
I see. Yeah,
but
yeah.
we don't think it's gonna fit. Starting. Just like this. That works. Driving Miss Daisy. What? Real loud. After all that struggle, dude. Oh my God. I hate you, but I love you. Love-hate relationship. That's out of an eBay fart can too, which is so funny. It smells though, but whew, wow. I'm probably gonna, definitely wanna get it tuned, like just safe as possible tuned though. It's just nice hearing a 240 that sounds different. After the first start, I had an immense feeling of optimism and positivity. After this, I took the car out of the shop and sent it over to my buddy Chris at the body shop. And it was at the body shop we started seeing some really gnarly things. I was later told that I would unfortunately have to basically restart this build all over again. This was just the beginning. So once I got it out of the shop, I finally got it to the body shop. Once I got it to the body shop, I went over to my buddy Chris and said, hey man, paint this thing.
My name is Chris Tress. Been around cars my entire life. David expresses himself in cars by always buying cars that are way too complicated and then tries to put them together in the shortest amount of time, but he buys all the greatest products, but for some reason he has absolutely the worst luck. It is really hard to watch.
So in the next episode, we'll be going to the body shop, painting the car. We'll also be driving it the first time and seeing that we're gonna have to restart this build all over again due to many issues with many places that screwed me over.
Where they put a freaking cap on the end of it and allow the tank to not be able to bleed off any pressure in the car. Which will just ultimately allow your fuel to boil over when it gets too hot.
So that's fun. On that note, guys, thank you so much for watching this video and this series. Make sure to go watch episode 1 and 2 if you have not already. It's a massive help to me, and I will see you guys next time, and take it easy. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.